Welcome to the Your Message Received podcast. And now, taking your message to the finish line, your host, John Duffin.
Hey folks, John Duffin here with Duffin Media. Welcome back to another episode of Your Message Received. Your Message Received is the home, the place, the platform to help you find your most true, your most authentic business voice. Hell, your most authentic voice. Get what you want, find what you need, improve your results, meet the person of your dreams, make billions of dollars. Can't guarantee those last two yet. We're working on those. But all the other stuff we know is legit. And love the fact that you keep watching and listening to us on iHeartMedia and Apple Podcasts and YouTube and everywhere that you get your podcasts. We're thrilled. We're thrilled that you keep coming back. And I am convinced that you keep coming back because we keep bringing people on who walk the walk. And in terms of being true, authentic representatives of people that are legit authentic and speak true and free, tonight's no exception. So here's what we got tonight. We've got an informational, life transformational speaker. We've got a best-selling author. We've got someone who has created this coaching platform, the R.I.S.E and Resilience Academy, the Love and Light Foundation, public speaker, director of speaking and advocacy services, and all-around all-star from one more way cool person from Dave Scatchard All-Star Group. Sandra Lee, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. I'm so grateful to be here, John.
I am so grateful that you're here. And it's crazy because that was just a partial list, I think, of some of the many cool things that you've done. And folks, I already let up like the sense that I had the privilege of getting to know Sandra and getting to meet Sandra as part of a high performance coaching group. And so we knew each other. We've met in Scottsdale, Arizona, which is fantastic. I'll ask, just in terms of a baseline start, Sandra, what got you pulled into that high performance group? Because otherwise I wouldn't know you.
Yes. Well, actually, it was the beginning of COVID, and I pretty much woke up to my life from an addiction. And I, at the time, like everything was shutting down from COVID, and I couldn't go into an in-person like recovery. And I had a lot of like guilt and shame because of my profession, because I'm a registered nurse, that I didn't want to go to a traditional program. And so I was on, I was going to say online, but I was on Facebook, and I found a challenge that was called Get Your Shit Together. And I was like, oh, I had never seen coaching before. I had never seen anything like that before. And I was like, well, I got to get my shit together. Might as well try it. So I did the challenge. Yes. So I did the challenge, and I think I was the second group that Coach Scatchard had. And I honestly was ready to go back into like the pit of my addiction because I had no support. I didn't believe in myself. I was struggling, and Coach Scatchard got me to believe in myself in 5 days. That 5-day challenge literally changed my life. And so I joined, I invested in myself, and I joined the All-Star coaching. I joined the mastermind coaching. I honestly found connections and a support system like I've never had in my life. And I got hope back. I started to have dreams and goals, and everyone that was in the group actually supported me so much with my dream and vision of building a nonprofit and an awareness campaign that people in Dave Scatchard's coaching group, they all became directors on the board and co-founders. And so actually this whole organization and whole movement is built by all-stars. And so that's how I got into the group.
It's crazy to me. First off, that you went all in like that, but it's not that crazy, because the fact of the matter is I think what impresses me most about what you just said was the sense that I had never done coaching before.
Never.
I was the type I mean, I was doing other types. I literally, hey, Dave Scatchard, if you're listening or watching, and you better be, major shout out to you. I told Dave directly, I just kept seeing this on Facebook, and I was either vulnerable, you brought up COVID, but
Wow.
So I was a little bit more like understanding at least what the basics were. You had said that none of that was like in play for you before, and you were in basically the throes of addiction. Mm-hmm. So Sandra and I have something in common. I've been sober for a fair amount of years now. And as I said, it's like, so I don't point fingers. I don't, put spotlights intentionally, other than to say, what do you think got you out of it? Was it this? Like for you, first off, because I believe it probably is a couple of different things, that your authenticity, at least from what I've seen, comes from a place of first addressing and arresting that, and then building this foundation. Walk me back a couple steps. Oh, and folks, just because, like I said, I'm weird with geography because I like it. So here's a Michigan native that I say I like that. Like, so it's not a geographical thing, but that sense of community as it regards to recovery, addiction, alcoholism tends to pass a lot of geographic borders. What was it like for you going through it, and what was it like for you coming out the other side?
So what was it like going through the addiction for me?
Correct.
Oh, it was a very dark place for me. A lot of people have, like, when they're addicted or in alcoholism or, anything like that, they take uppers or they do things that, keep them awake. Or for me, it was totally different. I actually had a previous suicide attempt as I was dealing with complex PTSD and PTSD. Mm-hmm. And after that, I was prescribed Xanax, and I ended up abusing my Xanax. Well, first I abused
a lot of people do.
Yes, and they put you on so many things. I swear I was on like Ambien, Adderall, Xanax, like the whole nine. And so I ended up abusing my Adderall, and I slept my life away. Wow. So literally for like almost 3 years, I really had like no brain activity. Like I sedated myself. I was a functioning addict at first. Yeah. I would do my job, which was case management. I facilitated care from home. I would take my pills, go to sleep, set my alarm. I'd wake up, I'd make dinner, I'd take more pills, and I'd go back to sleep. So I hid it from a lot of people. A lot of people thought I was just going through some depression because I had a previous house fire, a very traumatic house fire. So they thought I was, just dealing with depression and just withdrawn and isolated. But really, I was on a very high amount of Xanax and sedated myself. So what happened was the craziest thing. After about 3 years, I woke up one day, I was laying in my bed, and literally this thought came to me. Right. And it was actually a Bible scripture. And it was Jeremiah 29:11, for I know the plans I have for you, says the Lord. It was that one, plans to keep you, not to harm you, plans to give you hope in a future. And then another thought came to me, and it was an Eminem song from his recovery album. And those two things, I say, woke me up to my cycle of addiction. And that was my first awareness. And I can remember laying there in bed, and I was like, what the hell am I doing with my life? What am I doing? And it was the realization that I had lost a deep connection with my children.
Well, and I was going to ask you, you're a mom. So you've also got that you're needing to not prioritize, because that is the priority, but it's like you're juggling all of that too. Demanding career, case management, as you're saying, as well too, family and stuff. So when you first come to the realization, how long was it between the realization and the sense that you needed to do something?
Immediate.
Wow.
It was immediate.
Okay.
I actually called my husband like right after, and I was like, I need help. This is what I've been doing. I need help. I can't live like this anymore. I'm wasting my life. I'm sleeping my life away. I can't do this. Like, I need help. So we called my psychiatrist, let her know what was going on. Of course, she's going to say you need to go to a treatment center, because benzodiazepines are one of the things that can actually kill you from withdrawal. You can die, just like alcohol. Those two, they're the hardest withdrawals, and you can actually die. But my mind frame at the time was, I'm a registered nurse. I'm not going to a treatment center. So
were you afraid more of the sense of being outed, or was it because you knew what the treatment centers do?
No, it was immediate guilt and shame. And I felt like a disgrace to my profession. I literally felt like a disgrace to my profession.
Okay.
So I didn't, but I had the sense that I knew I can't just stop taking Xanax. So I Googled, and actually asked my psychiatrist, but she couldn't really give me a taper schedule because she said go to a treatment center. So I tapered myself. My husband helped me. He kept the Xanax and he dosed me. We went down a certain percentage. And it took about 6 weeks. Looking back, I prolonged my suffering, and it was probably the darkest 6 weeks of my life. It was terrible, horrible. I would never suggest to anyone ever to get off of Xanax on your own. Please don't ever do that.
Okay.
Yes, never. It was horrible. So after the 6 weeks, I went through total withdrawal symptoms, even tapering. Was horrible.
How'd you get, in your mind, how'd you get through?
Oh, support.
Okay. From whom? Your husband, obviously, because he's doing the dosing and all that stuff, right?
Yeah, so he did the dosing, and then I actually connected with someone that I knew did a 12-step program. And this person actually, it wasn't my sponsor, but was my support person. And so he was my support person for a while. And literally, he would want me to send him a selfie every day to make sure I was awake, I was alive, through this whole thing. He literally walked me through motivational wristbands. And that's one of the reasons how this awareness band came about. Motivational wristbands, music. What else? Yeah, I'm trying to think until the time that I finally got off of them. Then I found the coaching program, and then it was the support from the coaching program that got me through.
How long ago was that?
Well, I was 3 years clean, July 1st.
Yes.
So it was 2020, July 1st, 2020, and I found the All-Star Coaching Challenge in, I think it was October.
I think that's
July,
the one I was in. I think that's the one.
Okay.
I think that's it, because I'm pretty the timeline works. Now, folks, this was a Facebook group, so
yes,
and A, we don't know each other. Two, it's not like there was a ton of interaction, even when there was on comments on Facebook, when you don't know who the people are. There's really nothing else going on. And one of the things that I find fascinating, and this is the highest compliment, is that you move quickly. You just said it a couple of minutes ago when you were like, from the realization to the, the sense I got to do something. You're like, how long was it? Oh, it was immediate. Folks, you're going to see a pattern here in a great way, which is you can make impactful decisions and take action quickly, even when you think you can't. Because here's an example of someone who has. So I can remember going through the same program. That's why I'm laughing. So I go through the same program, right? I'm barely paying attention to it, but for some reason I find it interesting. I've shared this with the coach. I am kind of in, kind of out, kind of, seems nice, whatever. So go through. And then there was another one that came in, and I don't remember what that was called, but I know I was in that one. There was another one, and I got into that one as well too. But there was a draw, there was a hook. And so Sandra takes this and it's like, okay, now I've got, the sense I got through the program, and you make the investment in yourself, as you said, which I think is great. I think that in terms of anytime people make that kind of a conscious decision, it's rare that things go sideways. But for you, it goes in a really different direction than sideways, which I think is great. So it's like, okay, so it's like, afraid I'm a disgrace to my profession. I am, going through this brutal withdrawal that I wouldn't recommend to anybody. And now I'm in this program, and now it's like, okay, now I'm ready. I'm ready to start building something. Did anyone try to slow you down in the process? Your family, your peers, or whatever. I want to do this. I want to do that. What was that beginning process like? Walk me through.
So the beginning process, when I started building and I started sharing what I was doing, at first I did get pushback from my family. I got pushback from some friends that were, some other friends that I had, only because they were afraid that I wasn't mentally stable enough. Like, maybe you shouldn't be making these big decisions. Maybe you shouldn't found a charity right now. Maybe you should get a 9-to-5 and, just balance out. And I think over time, I have proved that I was all in on this, and it wasn't just a whim thing. It wasn't, I wasn't unstable to make those decisions. So over time, they became supportive.
I was going to say, and over time, it's quite clear that you've made the right decisions, which I say, I'm proud of you. But I bring that up because I think the beginning process is great and crazy and hard and important and all that, and that's why I like to know that, because it's like, so somehow they're giving you that feedback, and somehow you're like, no, I'm going to do it. What was first? What did you build first?
The organization, Love and Light to the World nonprofit.
So now this is to me. So that's how I remember thinking. First of all, I didn't then even know what it was. But as you said, half the people that now that I'm starting to get to know are all wearing black and yellow T-shirts and balloons and all that stuff. Walk us through why this matters so much to you. First of all, why did it matter? Why did it have to happen? And why did it have to happen right now?
So founded the organization, and it had to happen because it was part of my healing process. It was part of me turning my story, my mess, into a message.
Okay.
It was part of bringing people together in unity. And it had to happen now because I was fighting for my life, and so many other people were suffering in silence, especially at the start of COVID. I had a lot of nursing friends that were really going through it. And we started raising funds, and we started lighting up hospitals with acts of kindness. And we actually didn't have anything. We didn't have any support set up in the background yet. We didn't even have a website. We just had a calling to help people and to serve. So we literally lit up hospitals. And I mean that with We did surprise parties. We showed up with balloons, with full meals, with thank you cards. We gave them Sandra's self-care bags that reminded them to do self-care. We gave them affirmation cards. And we also gave them like a small thing of my story that I suffered in silence and almost lost my life, to please reach out. It's courageous. And actually, Dusty and I gave our personal Instagram, Facebook, accounts, and we had people reaching out after that outreach. And we had people reaching out, and then we would just help them with resources, give them emotional support first, and then give them resource links, and things like that. And what's amazing, I was going to say what's crazy was, like, we lit up the emergency department where I used to work, and I worked in the emergency department, and we lit them up with the kindness, and then they lit up another floor. So they decorated yellow. And so any of those floor, would reach out. Well, that floor lit up another floor. So all of these employee break rooms, you could just see, just turned yellow in the hospital, just moving love and light all over the hospital. And it was amazing to see. And like I said, we had to act fast, because not only, were people suffering, it was the idea and the fact that there was so much going on with COVID that we didn't want people to suffer in silence. We needed to get the message out there because people's lives depended on it.
And I'm just refreshing, not that anyone needs my help with the memory refreshing, not you, Sandra, or anyone watching or listening, but I was going to say that, so the beginning part of COVID was 2020, if I'm doing the math correctly, I believe. So the very beginning of this is no more than 3 years ago, right? None of this was even there. So I remember, first off, I mean, anyone who was here knows the impact of COVID, but what I would say was, for healthcare professionals, and you talked about they were really going through it, and I know a fair amount in the Philadelphia area, and to a person, that was something that no one had ever encountered before. So what I think one of the things that you took on was that even though your story has very unique parts to it, if you go to the details, right? But one of the things that I noted, like in terms of how galvanizing that was that you were taking, look, it's the COVID factor. It's not just the addiction factor. It's not just, the suicide factor. It's the COVID factor. It's the mental health factor. And all of these things are going. One of the things, by the way, you threw a name, Dusty Ann Simmers. If you are, another person, such a fan, right, that they've done this extraordinary effort of bringing people together that don't necessarily have a whole lot in common. And that's what I was going to say. So what was it like in the beginning of that? Because people are grabbing on, and whether it was a case, well, I don't have anything else to grab onto, which sounds morbid, but maybe that's what it was. Or, what do you think was the nerve that you struck that was like, I need to latch onto this?
Or you mean like people that wanted to support?
Buy the balloons, wear the bracelets, but I not just the people that you and I both know and have in common, but I'm going to say it felt like it started to take off really quickly, not just in the way you described it, but what I was able to watch and envision in this sort of thing. Why do you think people were grabbing at it? Like, no, there was a million organizations. Why do you think they were going for you?
Honestly, I think my vulnerability, my transparency, just me shining my light and inspiring and encouraging people that just wanted to join. I started recovering out loud, and I started building the charity out loud. So every step of the way, I was sharing, like, we're doing this, and I just picked out the logo, and the board's doing this. And so people just wanted to be a part of building. And we're still not fully built. We're still like at the end of the building stage for the nonprofit. But because everyone, they just and it's about unity, and it's about lighting up the world with love and light and unity. And then the awareness campaign is saving lives. So it just, I think it's just because we as a charity and connection and unity, we just attracted people who wanted to be a part of building.
How did you go from, as you said, feeling like a disgrace in the profession? I'm laughing with you, not at you, honestly. I've gone through recovery. It's amazing the guilt and shame that you carry, that people will carry, right? And it's like, but how did you go from that to, as you just said, I chose to recover out loud, and I chose to build the business out loud? How did you get, like so often, like I talk about this arc to authenticity, you kind of got to get there. Do you remember, how did it go that you worked up the bravery, the heroism, the guts, whatever, to go from I'm a disgrace, I'm going to sleep my life away, to I'm just going to recover out loud and we're just going to build this thing and whatever, right? How did you do it?
Followed the coaching.
Okay.
At first, I started daily self-care routines. I didn't have any routines. I started meditating. I didn't meditate before.
Right.
I literally started eating better. I just started to learn how to process emotions and how to kind of rewire my mindset. I would say almost I don't know how to explain it. I had to unlearn a lot of unhealthy thought patterns, behavior patterns, and then I had to relearn the different things, and then I had to learn new things. So I think that is kind of what got me to there.
I think it's incredible because I just remember watching the speed of it. I thought that was amazing, right? And it was like, and the vulnerability, you just said it, which is to me so important. Folks, if you get anything out of this, like I said, you watch, as I said, this is one of the most authentic people you're ever going to encounter. And I believe everything that you said is 100% on point. But I love going through the steps and the hows and the whys, because I just think sometimes people think, well, that's not me, and it couldn't be me. And I think here's living proof of an example. Well, it wasn't you either, but it really was you. That, ultimately it really was you. That's the heart of who you are. So then you are, all right, so this is now starting to build, and you're now going to like speak, coach, write a book, publish a book. What was next in terms of not necessarily what you needed to do, but the sequence of, okay, so now I got to do something else because I've got all this going on, and that's not enough to keep, you know what I mean? I need to do more. I need to build. What was next?
So actually, I started with the nonprofit and building and building and building, and we've been volunteers since the beginning. And so we've not generated any funding for the people running it. And so I wasn't making any money from that. And I also wanted to coach, and the charity wasn't at the part where we're doing coaching or like nothing like that. So what was next for me, while we were still building the nonprofit, I founded my LLC, Rockstar Resilience, and I created a coaching program called R.I.S.E Resilience Academy. And so that's kind of what was next. And so I kind of flip-flopped, like building here, then I had to focus here and build here. So I kind of had to split my energy, but I have a team in the nonprofit. And so they would kind of relieve my duties so I could come over here and focus on this. And people are like, why did you do them both at the same time? And it just kind of happened like that. I didn't plan it. It just kind of happened.
But you were able to run with it, and that's
and I just have, like, in so many things have gone wrong in building and whatever. So it's kind of like I just hit a roadblock and I just go to something else, or it just, and then we come back to fix the problem, or whatever. We don't let it stop us. We keep serving, we keep making impact, and then we go back to it. So, it may not be the best way, but it works for me. I'm just feeling my way to success.
I love it. So when you set up the coaching program, what was it like? Like, I remember like for me, there was a moment that came when it was like, and it, God, this sounds so self-serving, and I'm going to risk it, which is like when you knew you had something of merit to offer. When was that moment for you? When it was like, because again, when you've never coached and you make the call, one, and I'll just speak for me. I'm not putting words in your mouth, but I remember it's like, well, what if nobody does it? And what if I'm not any good? And what if I don't have anything to offer? And then you come to this realization. What was it like for you when you realized, oh no, that was definitely the right call?
Hmm.
What did it feel like?
It felt really good because I had built up self-confidence. I had built up self-belief, and I don't know, it really felt amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And I knew that I had something to offer, and I knew it was created for something bigger. And I knew that I didn't go through all of my hardships and all my adversity for nothing. And I knew that I could help people. And especially because I know what it's like to not have hope. I know what it's like to be in like the darkest of dark places. And I know that my story and what I'm building can impact and save lives, because it has. Yeah, so I guess it just felt amazing.
I love the way that you ended that with it. Well, it impacts and saves lives because it has. And
Mhm.
so, do people reach out to you now? Because it's like, okay, that I need to, you know what I mean? That what's it? Oh, just as a setup. One of the things that I find really extraordinary about the way that Sandra's voice has risen in volume and in depth and in all that sort of thing is the ability to constantly be putting yourself on Facebook Live, LinkedIn Live, Instagram Live, like doing the live interviews. It's not just you hosting, it's you, as we were just talking about prior, you showing up for other podcasts, for other lives. How long did it take you to get comfortable with a live platform?
Actually, I started in the All-Star group.
Yeah.
They wanted us to introduce ourselves, and that was the first time I ever did a live. And
Mhm.
so I got comfortable in the group, and I would go on all the time, and I would encourage everyone, and I would give everyone updates. And so that's how I got comfortable, is going live in the All-Star group.
Got
And that built my confidence to start going live
Mhm.
on all of the social medias and everything. And I always felt comfortable, but I always had a hard time like adjusting, or like my voice would be weird, or I would like drag out my words, and like it's not easy to like just talk to nobody. I don't think people get that when you first start out. It's not easy. It's weird. It's like I don't know, it's a process. And so I still think I'm, like getting better and progressing, but I still don't feel 1,000%. Like, I don't know. I guess it's hard to explain.
I think you just did. So one of the things why I started laughing, I love this. So you said sometimes you're talking to nobody. Well,
Yeah.
technically, you're always talking. Any sort of electron, you always are. One of the things that I'm always curious about, especially when I have an authentic person, is how do you express authenticity when you are literally talking to nobody? How do you do it? How do you get your own personality to come through is all I was trying to say. Literally, I don't mean push through the mirrors, but it's more like,
Right.
how do you, like you say, it's still work in progress, but you're obviously doing it and you keep practicing.
Mhm.
For someone that's never done it before, is there anything that you would suggest in the sense of maybe they want their voice to be heard? But they're like, well, it's
Honestly,
weird. It's weird. I'm talking to nobody. You know what I mean? And it's like, so I just won't. How did you push past the sense of I need to do it and then get good at it, which is what you've done?
um, honestly, just showing up as yourself, not being afraid of anyone judging you, or not being afraid to mess up, not being afraid just to be real, not being afraid that everything's not perfect,
Hmm.
just overcoming fear, I
Okay.
guess. And honestly, I don't care what people think about me.
Hmm.
Like, I don't care. For like the negative
Mhm.
feedback, and I just kind of blocked out people's negative opinions, and so I didn't have fear. And if I mess up on a video, and like I just try to be authentic, I guess that's just be myself.
I love it. So
Yeah.
talking about the fear part, because to me, this is one of the biggest things that I would think that I think is one of the bravest things that you do. You go from a point where you're worried because you're in a profession that obviously, as I said, it's monitored, it's measured. It's not just your own personal, like carrying that heavy burden, but it's also a professional thing. Do you remember the first time someone in your profession saw you? What was that like?
Um, Actually, it was probably my closest friends that I'm just trying to be careful what I say. Oh,
No, then don't. Here's what I was going to say. I'm not looking for names or details. What it's more the feeling that you were able to expose, literally to share yourself personally. And so my thought is that coming out of that eggshell,
mhm.
you know,
So
that
at
is what I'm more
first,
interested in rather than
okay.
the conversation. Do you know what I mean?
Okay, so at first, when I started talking about it,
Yeah.
I um I got some pushback. I did. I get a little pushback from
Mhm.
people I know, colleagues and like whatever. I did get some pushback. I
Mhm.
did get a lot of support.
Mhm.
So it was kind of mixed. But then as time went on, I ended up getting support from the people that gave me pushback. So it was great, but there was a lot of fear. So when the first time I spoke on stage, I shared my story of, my childhood and being pregnant in high school and graduating on time and getting my nursing degree. Like I did not go into my addiction. It took me a while
Mhm.
to be able to share that publicly. It was a process for me.
I asked that because it was a process for me, and that's because
Yes.
like I remember I was not in the medical profession. I happened to be in broadcast advertising sales, and it was like I didn't need anyone to know. In fact, I didn't want
Right.
anyone to know. And one of the things that was very freeing for me, but it like you use your words, it was a process, and
Yes.
it was a lengthy one for me, which was the sense of trying to like work through the what do you need to know and what
Mhm.
would ultimately help me. And that was a really long rope for me. So I took years, like in the beginning of my recovery, I wouldn't want anybody to know. I left a job because I would leave the job rather than let them know what had happened in terms of
Right.
one more accident. I actually quit the job and then went back to another employer. And so I say that because it's like I couldn't answer the question I asked you. I couldn't answer it, which is like I don't know what got me comfortable and confident enough where now I don't care.
Mhm.
It's part of who I am. I only ask the question because sometimes I would like it illuminated for me because I
Yeah.
don't know what it is. But you
Right.
got there, and that to me is really the only thing that even with pushback, even with that sense of, oh, you don't have to tell all that, it's like you still chose ultimately to do it. And I
Right.
think when you're on the stage, so what did it feel like when you are telling what was a really personal story standing on a stage? Did you envision in your mind, did you think that was an inevitable, I'm sorry, let me say that word better, an inevitable part of your trajectory? I'm going to be on a stage speaking. When did that become part of your dream and then an actual reality?
So I pretty much knew from the very beginning, like the very beginning of the building of the nonprofit, and
Mhm.
I really wasn't sure, like where it would go, but I knew I needed to learn how to speak.
Mhm.
I knew knew I needed to be comfortable in front of crowds.
Mhm.
So I actually joined a speaking academy. I joined an
Oh.
elite academy. And the very first time I spoke on stage, I got on the stage, I forgot everything I was going to say.
Mhm.
I totally forgot everything. And I was standing there and I said a few words, and literally it was like a sink or swim moment. I
Yeah.
was being recorded so I could get a promotional reel. I was in front of a crowd of people, and I looked at someone in the audience and I saw her looking back at me. And in my head, I was like, okay, swim. So I just started speaking. I literally just started speaking about, I grew up and like whatever. And I just started telling my story from my heart. And I literally got 2 standing ovations. I had a few people in the audience crying. It
Mm.
was, it
Mhm.
was like
Mhm.
an experience. It was amazing. And I had 10 minutes. And I had
That's
learned,
a long time for a
yes,
first go. That is a
well,
long time to cover. Wow.
I didn't cover it, but I had learned that once you get the audience and you've done what you came to do, you've
Right.
inspired them, you've encouraged them, you've moved them, you've
Yep.
empowered them, then land the plane. You already have the audience, you've already impacted. So I literally, after my second standing ovation, and I was like, I just felt done. So I was like, that's my time. And I was at 5 minutes.
But you
That
see,
was like my mic drop moment. I was like, I'm Sandra, that's my time.
that's you just said it. It's you move the audience. They felt something. You knew it. Uh,
Yes.
and that's to me that requires way more skill than just navigating the clock. And that's where to me it's like I think that it's one of those things it's to watch somebody speak from the heart. And I watched you speak from a stage before. It's riveting because I think one of the biggest fears for people is how am I going to include a piece of myself, whereas you do. And I think that that's the part where it's like, rather like you said, I went to an academy, and all that stuff. So it doesn't mitigate the technical chops or the time that you invested to be good at your craft. But I also think that moment you just said it, where it was like, okay, and I just knew it's okay, swim. I even love the way that you said that, because it's to me those moments you can make choices, and you obviously made a good one, right? You saw what you did, and you got people to move and feel things, and most importantly, it enabled you to feel something. So now keep
Yes.
going. I'm crazy, and now I get to even ask you that you're a published author, and I say that with such reverence and appreciation, knowing how hard that is to do, to not just know that you have a story, not just be able to tell the story, but you just use the expression land the plane. What was it like when you had the book in front of you, your own picture and all bio and everything? What was it like when you saw the book?
It was a feeling of accomplishment and a feeling that I knew I was going to help people with this
Mhm.
book, that there was going to be somebody out there that needed what was in this book, that needed the tips, that needed, to know how to build a new routine, that
Right.
needed to know, that it's okay to go through these things and you can be successful after you get out of them. So it was just a really powerful moment for me. And actually, when I got my box,
Yes.
and I got my first proof,
Mhm.
I called my oldest son to come over, and I opened it in front of him. And he kind of opened it with me, and we had a moment, and
Oh,
he hugged me and told me
oh.
congratulations. And it was uh it was a really good feeling.
I feel as you talk about like in terms of the book, and I'm stealing from some of the bio, that it's some
Oh,
life changing information that'll help you bounce back and beyond when you've to show you are a resilient rock star. Um, you had so much material. I would imagine with your first book, there's so much that you want to draw on. Do you remember going through the process of like, what were some of the things in the book that were the most like gratifying or important to make sure, oh, get this in, this is really important? Is there anything in terms of the book, if it's rather than just read it cover to cover, where would you guide me to be like, oh no, what this, I'm really proud of this part? Are there parts that really still resonate to you in addition to the completion?
Yes, so it would be the positive self-talk.
Okay.
And I go into, like affirmations and self-awareness. And then I go into different practices that literally changed my life, like meditation. Meditation has, absolutely changed my life. I go into building connection with a higher power. I go into all of the things that really helped me that I knew would help somebody else and change their life.
So that to me, just, I could feel your energy surge. I got, like I said, just two more questions for you, because I feel, how would you define authenticity? Sandra Lee, RN, author, speaker, blah, blah. What makes you authentic? How would you define authenticity?
My definition of authenticity is the purest version of your soul. And I actually was able to embrace that and become that. And I'm still working on it. I don't think I have true embodiment yet. I'm still evolving. It's a process. But in All-Star Coaching and in that challenge, Coach Dave Scatchard shared his Superman, I think it was Superman.
Yeah.
Superman picture, and like,
of him as a kid in the Superman outfit. Yep.
Yes, and that was like the purest version of his soul. And and that's kind of like, I really embraced that. And I looked over, and in my bedroom I had this picture of myself and my sister. We were holding hands praying, and she was looking down like this, and I was kind of looking up, and I had this rock star. And I remembered how I was when I was a child. I was spunky. I had no fear. I was always a leader type. And so I just remember who I was. And then I remember everything I've got through in my life that most people don't get through. 1% of high school mothers get a college degree by age 30. And I got mine at 29. So just remembering, that inner rock star and that inner, purest version of my soul that can get through anything. So I guess that's authenticity to me.
That's one of the more powerful. I now started to ask that of everybody, and that's been that to me is one of the most powerful, like literally to the heart answers that I've heard yet. It is, but I lied. I had one more question for the last one, which is okay. I got one more as well. So you need to also want to know, how would you coach your kids, in essence, to live that version of their life? What would you encourage of them to be their purest form?
I would encourage them to go back to the version of themselves, to just at least get it in their mind and in their heart, kind of before their trauma happened, before kind of the world, conditioned their minds, just before they were like, I guess, I don't know, like before they were influenced by like the outside world. Just the purest version of them.
So as you were always in a coaching and service sort of mindset, where do you see this evolving? Where would you like this to go? The organization, the coaching platform, all that sort of thing. Yes. As you move quickly and thoroughly, it's not sloppy. It's a very detailed. Where in terms of the blueprint for you would be the next thing you'd want to be able to pull off?
So actually, we kind of hit a milestone in the nonprofit.
Right. Yeah.
We are at the point of working on contract proposals and ambassador sponsorship proposals to get some energized money in there so we can make more impact and save more lives. And so we're working on these proposals to get into different places and to get ambassador sponsorships. And so that's a milestone for us to be there at that point. So a speaking tour is what's next. And so these contract proposals are for different like states, counties, cities, school districts to get our speaking team in there to talk about hope, resilience, life transformation, and to spread our awareness campaign to save more lives. And so the next thing is the speaking tour and sponsorships for the charity.
So first off, I have to acknowledge you because I just think I feel my energy surge when you speak, especially as regards to the vision of the blueprint. Sandra Lee, I am honored that I get to call you my friend and colleague. And I also will say that to watch this growth trajectory go in what just feels like a crazy fast amount of time, I think is spectacular. I think when somebody is like thinking, I couldn't do that, I'll repeat what I said earlier, which is, well, you can because it's been done. I think you're laying a foundation that is going to be so beneficial for other people, mostly because of the ability that you're able to let go of the fear as to what others would think, whether it's your profession or what you, oh, I did this or what I went through and what have you. I think it's so beautiful because it's like, okay, it is a superpower of yours. And I think if anybody can carry it, why not you? So Sandra Lee, first off, thank you for showing up for me today. I acknowledge you so much so. I think you're incredible.
Thank you so much, John. I'm just so grateful that you offered me on, and I love to connect with you. And I actually can't wait to see you in person.
I think that's going to be the coolest.
I'm so excited.
We've been too long. That is going to be wonderful. So Sandra, I know that I will have your link to your website. I will have your link to the book. I'll have a couple of the social media to make certain people can find you. Is there a specific favorite of which we can find you?
Yes, you know what? My favorite, I would go to www.loveandlighttotheworld.org. Check out the organization, check out our awareness campaign, see where you can get into support. That's what I would, send people to my favorite. So if you're listening and you resonate,
watching
anything,
yeah, look. And folks, as you're and Sandra, as you're attracting and you're hitting this level of the ability for people to be able to put energized funds, as you called it.
Yes.
The fact of the matter is, this is your website's amazing. So I'll make certain that link is there. And I thank you again. You're absolutely extraordinary. And I can't wait for more to follow. And I cannot wait to see you in person again. So thanks for all of this.
Thank you so much, John.
My pleasure. And folks, you just heard another episode of Your Message Received. Keep liking, watching, listening, sharing, and we will keep driving more content through your front door. That arc to authenticity is very real. And when you're able to cross it, you'll feel the energy just like our absolute rock star colleague, Sandra Lee. Folks, have a wonderful night. John Duffin here, Duffin Media. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you again soon. Be well all. Bye.
And now, making its way across the finish line, Your Message Received has been a production of Duffin Media.